gather my thoughts here a little bit. I think this is the agenda here. And I say that because I've got a couple things I've got to straighten out from the last meeting. Agenda review. Okay. So the first one is under agenda review, I think. What was I going to do? My mind went off onto something else now. Oh, goodness. Does the board have any issues with the agenda tonight, at this time? No. What did I want to do under agenda review? It was important. Dad, burn it. I hate getting old.
Can always bring it up at the end.
Agenda review. No, I think I'm good under agenda review. I am. I remember what it was now, and it's a non-issue. Comments from select board, town manager, and citizens. Topics not on the agenda. Select board. Any comments? Nothing. Okay. And this is where my first one comes in. At the last meeting, we had a hearing, and in that hearing, I made a statement about participation in subsequent hearings. If you don't participate, that you're not allowed. That's partially true, but it's only true in a hearing on a permit or appeal. It does not apply to a hearing for the town plan, or the creation of bylaws or subdivision regulations. It only applies in the instance of a permit, and it's required for people to participate in the hearing on a permit if they want to participate in further proceedings such as an appeal or other hearings. But it does not apply. So I was wrong on my use of that. It's correct, it exists, but it doesn't exist in all hearings, and I just wanted to clarify that. So that was the first thing that I wanted to take care of there. Citizens or town manager, you next.
I can reserve it until my town manager update, Mike.
We probably ought to take you out of there because you always do that. And we'll just keep it as select board and citizens, because you always have your town manager report anyway.
But there may be a time in the beginning of the meeting where I need to make a comment.
Yeah, there is that. Citizens, topics not on the agenda. Anything from any of the citizens? Nothing? Okay. Review minutes of previous meetings. Nikki, did we get those squared away, you think? Okie dokie. You know why I'm asking.
Because you didn't read them.
I didn't have a chance to get back to them. I've been extremely busy.
I knew what that was. I knew why he said.
I have reviewed some of it, but not all of it for what I had caught before. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of 1/9/25?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes 1/9/2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's 3-0. It carries. The motion carries. Motion to approve minutes of 1/14/25.
So
Yeah.
moved.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? No?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of 1/14/2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That also carries 3-0. Motion to approve the minutes of 1/27/25.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes 1/27/25, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0. And that wraps up the minutes. That moves us to Veterans Memorial Committee membership. At the last meeting, it was brought up that, Dr. August Murray submitted a request for appointment. DeForest Pierce indicated that the committee was set at a 5-person membership. That has been confirmed. That took place in 2019. I believe I made the motion and Dan Boyer seconded the motion in 2019 for that to happen. So it's a right now it's a 5-member board.
I don't remember it either.
I probably don't, but research is what it is. I guess at this point, the topic for discussion here would be the actual membership and whether or not to keep it at 5. There didn't seem to be any real rationale given. August and DeForest are both here. And John's here. I think you were on the board then. I don't know. I think so. 2019.
Yeah, John was on the board in 2019.
But there doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion in the minutes about why 5 was picked or whether there was a need. But anyway, so that's where we're at. Is there a desire to expand or change the membership of this committee? And DeForest, you're the current chair of the committee. Would you like to address this coming out of the gate, or?
In terms of expanding the committee?
Yeah.
No. I have nothing to say.
Okay. Are you opposed to expanding the committee? I got a letter. I don't think you are, according to your letter.
I'm not opposed.
Okay. Is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of expanding the committee? Is there a need to do that, or, John, go ahead.
This isn't directly related to the membership or the quantity of quantity. I understand there was a letter that was circulating that had disparaging remarks about the committee. Let me make something clear. I participated with the committee, but I'm not a member. But I'd like to know if you care to read the letter or at least make it available.
The letter is on our desk. It was sent out as an email to all the board members today, which is, I don't know, anyway. So I believe it is a matter of record now.
Correct.
At this point. Are you requesting the letter be read into the record? I don't have the letter. The letter that came out today is from DeForest. I don't think it's the same letter you're talking about.
Mike, the letter is
The cover.
on page 2.
It's on page 2?
Yes, the original.
I was reading it in my email.
I think there's some allegations that are made in it that need to be addressed.
Mike,
Well-
point of order, though. We're talking about the Veterans Committee. Can we talk about that issue separately under any other business?
And that's kind of where I was going to go,
Okay,
is
that's fine.
yeah, I don't have a problem having a discussion about that, since how it's all out there. But yeah, let's focus right now on the actual Veterans Committee. I mean, I think I asked at the last meeting, and I didn't really get an answer. What is the legislative responsibility of the VMC as far as decision-making type stuff? And yes, please. I'm just trying to understand what the membership does and what it means. One of your comments was, and in some aspects I agree, like this board or the Planning Commission, Zoning Board, you don't want to have an even number of members necessarily, can tie up decisions. So you try to have an odd number of members. You pointed that out. I had asked, what is the legislative responsibility? What types of decisions do you make at that board?
This is not a quasi-judicial board. This is a
Right.
board that was simply created by the select board, as you are allowed to do. You can create committees as you see fit and as you see the need. It's not legislatively created, such as the Planning Commission or the Zoning Board. This is a board created solely by the select board.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is what types of decisions do you make?
We have a mission. Our mission statement is that we teach, we honor, we teach, and we inspire. Everything to do with veterans. We honor them by posting a roll of honor and keeping that active and keeping it accurate and up to date. It's posted at the Memorial Park. We hold annual ceremonies, one on Memorial Day and one on Veterans Day every year, again, simply to honor veterans. And then we hold programs periodically throughout the year to either raise money or to continue awareness and education about the veterans, people who have served. That's our sole mission.
How many people on that board right now are veterans?
3.
Three?
2, sorry,
Two?
2.
Okay.
Mark Richardson and Dylan Brown are both veterans.
Okay. Any questions for the board?
But just because this is not a board that's created by the legislature doesn't mean we're not beholden to the open meeting law. We follow the open meeting laws just as any publicly appointed body would do.
Right.
But our decisions revolve totally around what the mission of the commission is, or committee rather, sorry.
Okay, where to go next? Does the board have any desire to, we do have August listed as a member requesting appointment. Currently, there are no seats. Is there an interest in the board to expand this board, this Veterans Committee?
When it's convenient. I just wanted to say that historically, it's been difficult to find 7 people. It's been impractical. So in my institutional memory, we've always tried to keep the boards at 5 members. Then you have enough people for a quorum if someone can arrive, but you don't have so many people that all 7 are never going to be able to meet at the same time. That's been our history in this town.
In my mind, I was looking at what the committee does, and I was thinking, why is there a limit? That makes sense.
Yeah, and 7 is impractical and 3 is impractical. 5 is right there in the middle, like Goldilocks porridge.
I don't know that something is impractical necessarily on this particular board. And I say that for this reason. I know that most boards are that way, but not necessarily.
That doesn't limit the
Please
number.
stop interrupting. Thank you. When we did the town manager search, the last town manager search had 9 members on it. And I think there was a reason for that. That's just my opinion, so I'm not going to, it doesn't matter what that is. But, Brandon?
A couple of just quick things. In the last meeting, the board asked me to, one, determine whether when the committee was established, how many members, and we did confirm that it was 5. But Mr. McNaughton also asked me to meet with town council to determine whether the select board has the authority to expand the committee. And that has been confirmed. The board does have the authority to expand the committee. But I do also want to note that back in 2021, 2022, we started developing policies for all of the boards and committees and commissions in town. And we did that with Parks and Rec, we did that with the Conservation Commission. And I would suggest that we continue that trend and cover the remaining boards and committees that currently don't have policies.
I think you lost me.
Lost me too.
What is the point for
The
that?
Veterans Memorial Committee does not have a policy right now.
Okay. And that has an effect on membership, or?
Well, in the policy, like in the Parks and Recreation policy, for example, it states how many members are on the committee and so forth. How many members are on the Parks and Recreation? I don't think it has a limit, actually.
I think right now there's 5.
There's 5 right now.
We have people that are interested.
So it's an unlimited number of people in the Parks and Rec.
It has changed, back when a few years ago, it was, I believe, 5, and then,
I'll take a
Is it limited to any number, or is it 7, or is it?
So it says here, the organization, there is no limit to the number of members on the Parks and Recreation Commission. It also determines like the organization of the commission, the meetings, its reporting requirements. So the Parks and Recreation, it states that the commission shall report to the select board at the first board meeting of each quarter. That's currently not happening. The commission shall submit an annual report, which I believe Veterans Committee and Parks and Rec both do right now. And then it determines how the finances work for the committees and the commissions. Conservation Commission, so the Conservation Commission shall have not less than 3 nor more than 9 members. All members shall be residents of the municipality. So the way that was written is that it just has to have between 3 and 9 members.
Forrest?
Just to add to the confusion, I think the Conservation Commission is statutorily required to be within no less than 3 or no more than 7. I think that's in state law.
Yeah,
The Veterans Memorial Committee, when it was originally founded back in 2004, was not a defined committee like it is now. The only person appointed was Chip Cobb. He was appointed by the Select Board as the Select Board's representative to this group of people that came together to recreate the World War II roster that had been lost. There was a roster in front of the library. When 91 went through and Route 5 was reconfigured, that roster was lost. Myrtle Baker's husband was on that roster. He was approaching death, and she came to the Select Board and asked, could we please reconstruct it? So the Select Board appointed Chip Cobb to lead up the effort to look into, did we want to just replace that? Did we want to do something else? And participation, I don't want to say membership, participation in this project was open to anyone in the town that wanted to do it. Chip Cobb was the only appointed person, and he was appointed to this group of people to act as the representative of the Select Board. And we carried on that way till well after 2010, when the monument was created and the park was dedicated. Then Chip Cobb left. He moved out of state, and we were suddenly a ship with no rudder. And that's when I came to the board and said, could we please create something to give us some organization? So that's how that happened. The only other board that I can think of that was not statutorily created and mandated membership was the 1879 Schoolhouse Committee. There were a certain number of seats, I can't remember whether there were 5 or 7. I have the world's worst memory, so I apologize for that.
That's better than mine.
But sometimes it's great and sometimes it totally leaves me hanging. But the 1879 Schoolhouse Committee had a defined membership. That was defined by the Select Board. There was to be a member of the Perkinsville Trustees, a member of the Historical Society, a representative from the Food Shelf, a general contractor, and then I think there were 2 seats at large that were open to anybody. So that's the only other committee in my tenure that I can recall that hasn't been created by state statute that says it has to have a defined membership, or one that was created by the board, the Select Board, to fulfill a specific purpose that had a defined membership. That's the only one I could think of. As I said, the Veterans Committee was sort of a free-for-all. It was just a large group of people that came together with one person in charge that was appointed by the Select Board.
All right, so, and with that, in going into the minutes, there are indications of 7, 9, 11.
And I can speak to all of that.
Well, I'm just talking about, I'm sure that they're not all members of the
No,
board.
and nor were they. That came about in 2023. The 5-member committee was created in 2019 by the Select Board.
Yeah.
There was no discussion about how many members it should have. Just 5 seemed like a good number. It's the traditional, as Patty says, it's the most practical number. It's not an even number, it's not too big, it's not too small, it's fine. There was no discussion about we're going to limit it to 5 people only. Fast forward, and that's the way it stayed. It was on every agenda of the select board from 2019 to 2023. It was either, once those seats were filled, it was either listed Veterans Memorial with no vacancies next to it, or it wasn't on the agenda at all. In 2023, March of 2023, it showed up on the select board agenda with 7 seats. There was absolutely no record in between, and I searched every single agenda from 2019 to 2023. There was no action taken on that board by this board to either expand it, and none of the people that had been appointed to the board to that time had left. So I have no idea. The only thing I can think of is the town report, and that was brought up in that letter, that, and I'll take some of the responsibility for that. There are 2 places where boards and commissions are mentioned. One of the official rosters, it's those pages that list the official rosters of who's been appointed to what committee and what their term is up. That's not my jurisdiction. That comes from the town clerk's office or the I'm not sure. I don't have any part in that. My part has been what has been the committee's activities over this year that's covered in this report. I write those since Chip left. I became the chair of the committee. I write those reports every year. The first year it became my responsibility was the year that the board was created to be a 5-member board, and I listed only those 5 members that had been appointed. Well, we did have other people that were still participating in activities of the committee, but I didn't put them in that. I didn't acknowledge them in my annual report, and some people were very offended. Gloria Ballantyne is a good case. She did not want to be appointed to the board once it had a defined membership because of health reasons. She couldn't commit to being there, but she was still helping out. So perhaps I erred in the direction of recognizing people that weren't officially members of the committee by putting their name at the end of my report. It looked like all these people were members when in actuality they weren't really members, but I wanted to recognize them. So maybe that was my fault. But somebody must have taken that list and put it as an official roster in that other section of the town report without ever confirming that some of the people on that list were not actually members per se. And so that's the only reason I can think of, and that didn't come from me, that came from the town office.
This brings up a memory for me of having to deal with this at the Planning Commission, where we had a fully seated commission, and I think there were only 3 people that were listed, and I don't even think the terms were posted in the town report, if I remember. And I came in, remember, and sat down and went through and located everybody that was appointed and their appointment date, so we knew what their expiration dates were, and we got that in the town report correctly.
Yep.
So
There's no record of these other people actually being appointed. There was at one point, and I have to check my notes to confirm the actual date, but after the 5-member board was created, the select board somehow appointed Chris Whidden to a seat on the board. I have no idea how that happened. I did go to the town, I don't remember, Brandon, I'm sorry if it was you or if it was Floanne, about 3 weeks ago and said, you keep showing these 2 vacancies on the agenda for this board, meaning the Veterans Memorial Committee. So there's only 5 members, it was created as a 5-member board, and yet you keep showing, and they're all filled, and you keep showing 2 vacancies. Can you please address that? But it didn't happen, and it continued on the agenda, so.
Okay, so we have a person who, misled by the listing here that says 7 vacancies, has submitted an application. This individual happens to be a decorated, war veteran. He also is probably one of the most connected veterans we've had. I don't know too much about Chip Cobb, what his connections were, but I do know that August served in the Pentagon as a chief of staff.
I was assigned to both Arlington Hall and the Pentagon, last assignment as a chief of staff.
And in my conversations with Mr. Fuller, I know he's not here, but you can check with him. I'm sure he can verify this statement that this probably gives us one of the best connections to any assistance, grants or otherwise, that might be available to us. I know we've got a great grant writer over here, but, any funding or attention that we might want or need from, the federal government. It may be in our best interest to make a place for this person. I'll get to you in a minute.
I'd be happy to give up my seat if that makes it easier. I've been on this committee since its first meeting in 2004. Maybe it's time for me to move on. And you're more than happy to give up my seat so Mr. Murray can have mine. Be happy to do that.
Like, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I don't see the harm in
Thank you, DeVore.
expanding the committee by 2 members.
And you're okay. Patty, once you get seated, you're up.
I think you make difficulties for yourself when you act in a manner that's contrary to precedent. I'm sure that Mr. Murray is generous enough to offer his time should a grant be, a grant present itself that you could speak to. But we don't want to create a situation in which there is no vacancy and yet someone says, I want to be on the board, and that means that someone else has to leave. That there's a difference between a board and the interested membership. Think of the Historical Society. We have the Board of Governors and we have the membership. But everybody contributes. There are often times when people who are not members of the Board of Governors take on projects or provide leadership for various projects or events. I think a mess always results when you change precedent. And you don't really have a problem here. I'm sure that someone will retire or resign sooner or later, and then you're willing and able and available to step in. But as long as you have a board that doesn't have a vacancy, then that should be the end of the discussion.
You mentioned precedents. Joe?
If I may, sir. Last year, when I was appointed to the Fence Viewers Commission, there was 1 spot. You guys made 3 out of it right there at the meeting, so the board's already set a precedent on that.
But that's not a real thing.
It's an appointed commission, though. I'm just saying that there's been a precedent set by the board. That's all I have to say on this. Thank you.
I also want to make another comment. The board did that with the weigher of coal as well. We had 3 people that were interested.
I think we have 3, don't we?
There's a board of weighers of coal now.
John, who's the chair of that board?
I don't think they've organized themselves yet.
I don't personally see an issue with adding members to this committee. I don't think there's anything that says 5 is better than 7. Your quorum changes by 1 factor at that point. Instead of 3, you got to have 4. That's out of 7. So the likelihood that I don't think that the odds really change that much. That's my opinion. Insofar as whether you're going to have a quorum to be able to do your work. I also think that it does add a greater level of opinion within the structure of that committee, which is, DeForest, what did you say their role was?
We look after the Roll of Honor, we look after the Memorial Park, we honor veterans through our annual ceremonies on Veterans Day and Memorial Day primarily. We do provide educational panels on either side of the Roll of Honor. These panels here are retired panels, there's more at the Perkinsville School.
And as we've previously covered, there have been other people assisting and working with you. So,
They weren't members of the committee, I mean, they just... Doesn't matter.
But they were there and their input was valuable and they assisted.
Absolutely.
So I think that also speaks to the fact that why couldn't they be members? why is it prudent to limit the membership? Rika?
It seems to me if DeForest is willing to step down, this whole discussion is totally moot.
It is,
And,
but to be
Frank-
honest with you, I don't want DeForest to have to step down. I'd rather
I
give
don't
her
think
another
anybody's
partner to
making her
work with.
step, I don't think anybody's making her step down. Do you feel like we're making you step
I
down?
do not, I do not.
Well,
But I would
There's no
address my
vacancy on the board.
resignation later in the meeting when we get a chance to address allegations made against the board. I would not be able to serve with this person, so.
Oh,
These are serious allegations, and
Yeah.
I will not be able to work with someone who feels that way about the committee members.
okay.
So if I step down, then you have your seat and problem solved. But I would like a moment to address, at some point in the meeting when it's appropriate, to address the allegations made against the committee.
As Brandon recommended, we'll do that under any other business.
Thank you.
We'll give you that time. So, are you submitting a formal resignation then?
No. You haven't made your decision
Oh, on the membership?
yet.
Oh, thank you. So, gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, could I
Yes.
make a short statement?
Yes, you may.
I have a short letter just to explain my background and my interest in serving on the committee. But before I read it, I do want to say that in reply to the email that came out after the last select board meeting, I wrote a reply. And I felt that I felt like I was misled. But in listening to DeForest and in reading her letter and in reading policies over the last couple weeks, I can see that there's some gray areas here. And I can see that membership has ebbed and flowed in different numbers. I can also understand now that there's not a policy for that committee. So I probably would have chose my words very differently, because as information changes, I have different perspective. But I wanted to say before I read my letter that in no way whatsoever do I think that DeForest should step down from the committee. And I do believe I absolutely could work with her and the other members of the committee. The work they do is really important in the community. So if you don't mind, I'll read a short letter.
Go ahead.
And I have copies to provide you. It's a letter of input. It's my application for appointment to the Veterans Memorial Committee.
Okay, all right, wait then on that, because we're still in the topic on the agenda of the membership.
Okay.
So if you're going to address your appointment,
Later.
that would be later.
Okay, understood. Then I'll leave it at this. I am in favor of expanding the membership. I think, had it not been listed as that there were 2 vacancies, and I had read the town report before, I thought, I was under the assumption, and I could have been wrong, that there were 7 positions and then 2 were vacant. So I dropped off an application. When Chip Cobb was with the Historical Society and the Veterans Committee was not broken out as a separate committee, he made a statement as the committee would form as its own entity that membership should be open to all and that no one who wanted to serve should be turned away from becoming a member of the committee. That was in the historical minutes that I read. And so I share the same spirit as my fellow U.S. Army colonel, that the membership should be inclusive, not exclusive. And I think DeForest should absolutely stay on the committee, and I'd love to join her on the committee. And I think that you probably would find other volunteers. We have a large amount of veterans in this community. So, thank you, Chairman.
It's a short point. You don't have to glare at me like that. I think that probably the most useful thing to do is to tease out the difference between the 2 terms. I think the problem is happening because we're conflating the meaning of the board of governors or the committee leadership and the membership. No one is excluded from being a member, but you do have a board that leads the membership. And I think if you can make that distinction, then your problem is solved. And you don't have to expand the number of members of the board. And if you do, then you're going to have to go and look at the Conservation Commission and the zoning board and the planning board and think about how many members you have appointed to those boards.
Well, but that is a precedence that has occurred over the past couple of years.
Well, it's happened
Excuse me.
It's happened longer ago than that.
Under appointments, we have had requests come in for positions and made the modifications to those committees or boards on the spot under appointments without much reservation. We just changed. Well, it hasn't turned out to be the problem you seem to think it is, Patty.
Well, I think my
No,
institutional
I'm moving.
memory is longer than yours.
We're gonna move on. Where's the board stand on this?
I apologize, I'm late. Right, your party, and I apologize. I am curious where the existing committee stands on its membership. And maybe that's already been answered.
DeForest sent out a letter. She's the chair, and she's, in that letter, she says, and she stated that she's not opposed to expansion of the committee. Patty seems to be the largest opponent to expanding the board, and I'm listening to what you're saying, but you know, what's the board's position? Is there anybody else that wants to speak to this? Brandon?
I just want to speak one more time. I do agree that we should not turn volunteers away, not just for this committee, but for any committee. I think this is consistent with the Parks and Recreation policy that allows an unlimited number of members to be a part of the commission. Has that been an issue since you've been on the Parks and Recreation Commission? And I'm not just talking specific to the Veterans Committee, but any committee. I don't know why we would, like if we had 11 people that wanted to be on Parks and Rec, would we turn anyone away? I don't think we would, because it's an unlimited number of members that can be on there.
John, when we did the last town manager search, we had 9. Why was that?
I think because we wanted a broader circle of opinions, because it was a really important decision that affected the town from the bottom up. Let's make the point that anybody is welcome to attend any of the meetings. They're warned, minutes are kept, and whether you're a 5-member board with 20 other people participating, nobody's going to be, you're not on the board, you can't talk. That's not how it works.
Oh, I know.
I want to make one more point. The budget
Well, wait a
advice-
minute, is John finished?
Okay.
I'm not sure John's finished. Sorry, Brandon.
Whether you want to make it 5 or 7 first, I'd get a motion on the floor, and the discussion follows the motion, but that hasn't happened yet, so that's okay.
Another precedence that's been around for a long time.
The cart's often in front of the horse. That's okay.
Horse will catch up eventually.
No, that's enough. I mean,
Okay.
the meetings are open, just like this one. I mean, we're not members of the board, but yet we do a lot of talk usually.
Usually, yeah, I do. It's important. We have to communicate. That's what we're all part of the same team here.
I think it's notable that you were going to have somebody step down from the Veterans Committee in order for another to be appointed. And I want to go back to like the Budget Advisory Committee, for example. We had 7 members in this last go-around, and all 7 members showed up. And we got a diverse group of people that worked through the entire general fund, highway fund, and solid waste fund budgets. I don't think there were any issues with a quorum or any issues with a vote.
That's another board we expanded too, isn't it?
Yes, and there were differences of opinion, but that created a better budget at the end of the day.
Well, that's yet to be determined by some other people.
Well, in my opinion, it's a strong budget for the town.
No, I agree, but, but there's a whole town gonna vote on that budget before we, would you, the lady, I'm not sure what your name is.
Allison Roth,
Hi,
and
Allison.
I'm a member of the Veterans Committee. And we've always had open meetings where people are Forrest has always warned the meetings, and they are open to anyone who wants to come. So, I think that is a good point, that there is a difference between, the board and members, but the fact is, you can have anybody come, and we welcome them.
Yeah?
It's short again, I promise. But I think we are still worried about our vocabulary, because there's a difference between an adjudicatory board that makes decisions and an advisory board that simply provides information. The Conservation Commission, for instance, cannot make decisions, but it can provide the background information that the planning board or the zoning board needs. So I think the budget committee is not making decisions, it's providing the select board with the information. So keep those distinctions in mind too as you go forward with this discussion.
That was exactly the reason for my question. What is the legislative responsibility of this board?
It doesn't have one.
Okay, so then expansion really doesn't matter, does it?
You created it, you can do what you like with it.
Brandon? You look like you were going to say something.
I just go back to the fence viewers, the weighers of coal, and I'm looking at the entire town, not just the Veterans Memorial Committee. And I don't see a big deal in expanding the membership on any committee. If there's, why turn people away?
Well,
But no one's being turned away.
Currently, there would have to be a person to step down in order for a person to be appointed, and it looks like we had somebody willing to step down in order to give up her seat for another, which means one person would be stepping down because a committee can only have 5 members. I don't see what the purpose is of having a 5-member board and limiting it to turn people away that want to volunteer.
John? Oh,
Rika had her hand
It
up.
seems to me that it's a very gray and almost invisible line, since this is purely, maybe I'm wrong, but since it's not a legislative body, that, whether or not one is a member seems, in a way, quite moot. I mean, there just aren't that many decisions that this board makes. I don't think anybody's being pushed away. Is there anything that, and maybe I should ask you, is there anything you would feel that you couldn't do as a member as a participatory member, as opposed to being on the committee formally?
Well, that's a good question, Rika, and what I would say is, my background, I was an inspector general, and so I studied rules, policies, regulations, lived by them. And you can be formal or you can be informal. As far as I'm concerned, if I'm serving on a committee, then I'd want to be appointed as a member of the committee, participate in as a member, invest my time and efforts, be part of the voting process when motions are made, decisions are made. They do make decisions about funds, how they're applied, the purpose of the funds to support veterans. And so being appointed as a member is key, just like I've been appointed to the budget committee. I was appointed to the school budget committee. So me being appointed as a member is very important. You're a member versus just a volunteer or someone who attends. I hope that makes sense.
Well, attends, but also contributes your knowledge and your skill.
Yeah, there are things.
It's not
yeah.
that you just, as the people here, it's not like you're just sitting there.
Yeah, I think for me, membership in a committee means I'll make the effort to make every meeting, participate through the meetings, and be part of the body, versus just a volunteer. I view that as completely different.
I'm
Interesting.
going to hit this from a different perspective now. And that is, the problem that we have before us is ours and in some way created by us. And I say that because it's on our agenda that says there's 7 vacancies.
No, 7 positions, not 7 vacancies.
Well, 7, yes, sorry. But that problem was created by us.
No, it was created by somebody in the
Rika,
office.
let me finish, please. Mr. Murray would never have put his name in if it didn't say there were 2 vacancies,
Right.
okay? That's why I'm saying that this problem is ours, created by us, okay? The fact that he even put his name in is, that's what we're here having an issue with for whatever reason. And so it's up to us to solve that problem, one way or another. Would you agree?
It was my understanding that the problem was created because somebody in the office who wrote up the list of who are the official members of the committee goofed and took 7 names because 7 names were mentioned in the annual report.
Okay.
That the board never created a 7-member board. I don't understand why this is such a huge kerfuffle.
Because our agenda said there were 2 vacancies, and that is what
Yeah.
Mr. Murray reacted to.
Right.
And put his name in for.
Right?
Okay, and then to sit in front of, for me, I gotta tell you, I am a veteran and I feel a little ashamed to sit before a decorated war veteran and feel like we're trying to stop him or deny him membership on this board. And I know Dave feels the same way. The motion probably would have already been on the floor if Dave was here. I don't know, I guess the best way, like you said, John, is to get the motion on the floor.
Yeah. I have no
So,
problem with that. And it makes absolutely no difference to me who's on or who's not on the board. That's not even the point. I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here, and if it's a matter of expanding the board, let's do it. If it's a matter of not expanding the board and DeForest wants to step down, great, let's move on, please.
I like that. So do I hear a motion to expand the membership of the Veterans Memorial Committee to 7? Anybody want to make that membership, that motion, I mean? I'll make that motion. Anybody second it? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, any further discussion on the motion? Yes.
Put you on the spot, 'cause I know you've read Robert's rules probably more than I have. I know that, at least with this board, and I think all boards, until Ethan walked in, any motion would have had to been unanimous of the 3. So the larger you make the voting block, the more problems you potentially, not definitely, but more potentially, that you don't get the quorum together that can actually make a decision. 2 of you can't make a decision, so if you go to 7, I know it's only 1 more, but if you start getting some people not showing up, you may not be able to conduct business. I know DeForest has been very diligent. She'll send out an email just in case she isn't going to have 3 people there. She'll cancel the meeting. So think about that before you vote on the motion.
Any other comments?
He totally lost me.
Well, what he's talking about is, again, I think I addressed this earlier. We're a 5-member board.
Right.
We had to have 3 to even start this meeting. And that meant that we had to have unanimous 3-0 votes to pass the minutes or anything else.
Yeah.
That still becomes true with 4 members. We still need to have 3, even though there's 4 here. 3 still becomes that number. And even if 5 were here, 3 is still the same number. But if there's only 3 members, it does become difficult. Like if we didn't agree on something and it was 2-1, your motion is failed.
Yeah.
So it does have an effect, a limiting effect in that aspect, the fewer number of people that show up. But if you're going to deal with the number 3 still exists with 5, as we demonstrated here tonight. The fact that you go to 7 only increases your quorum requirement to 4, as opposed to 3. It's only a number of 1 that it's changing by. So I'm not sure that that's a insurmountable.
Okay.
I'm curious if we had a non-veteran person who wanted to be on the committee, if we'd be having the same discussion.
Hey, sir, when I first moved here to town, I put my name in as an applicant. Never even got a call, nothing. I actually got put onto the planning commission instead.
There's your answer.
Did you put your name in for a Veterans Committee?
Yep, back in 2020.
And it was there 5 members then? Because it was 2019, we made it 5 members, so. Huh. Me neither.
That's also when I put in my original fence viewer. That's why I say fence viewer.
Can I address,
Looking for a seventh member.
Hold on.
can I
Ready?
address Nate real quick?
Yes.
So the answer would be yes, from my experience. Last year, we had 3 people, we had 1 vacancy for a fence viewer, and we received 3 applicants. So the select board just made a motion and expanded the committee. The same thing happened with the weighers of coal. We didn't want to exclude anyone. We only had 1 vacancy, we had 3 applicants. Select board just expanded the committee. Or expanded the number of vacancies to allow 3 weighers of coal and allow 3 fence viewers. I don't think this is just about the Veterans Committee. I think it's about all committees and participation in town. Right now, it seems like we have a lot of people that want to volunteer. We had a full budget advisory committee. We have 5 people on the Conservation Commission, 6 on the DRB. It's an unlimited number of seats on the Parks and Recreation Commission. That's where I'm.
Any other discussion? Anybody?
When I read this, right, and I'm sorry, I must have missed it earlier.
I didn't see it either, Nate, so don't feel bad.
Okay, good. I thought I was losing my mind. for a
No.
moment. But I'm catching up. And I'm looking back at the last paragraph, right, when it talks about, the reason we assumed, right, 7 vacancies. Is this a factual statement that at one point there was 11 members?
No, it's not factual. And
Am I reading that incorrectly?
DeForest had cleared that up for us earlier.
I apologize.
No, you're okay. There were 5 members, but there were 11 people present.
Okay.
And I think DeForest pointed out that, for instance, Gloria Valentine.
Yep.
For health reasons and other reasons, didn't want to actually be a member, but she was working with them. And DeForest felt it was important to include them and recognize that they were working with but they weren't actually board members.
Gotcha. That's helpful to me.
Okay, that cover it about right? I was listening, and my memory worked for once. So, I'm giving Nate a little bit of time here because he's
I'm
catching
good.
up.
I read it.
Any further discussion on the motion? There is a motion on the floor to expand to 7. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
I'll vote aye.
The motion fails. 2-1-1. We have 2 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. So the motion fails. The committee is not expanded. I think that is a sad moment for Weathersfield, considering the applicant and his service to this country and this town. Go
I
ahead.
hope this doesn't send the wrong message to other people in the town that want to volunteer. Because I know over at the planning commission, we love input from people. And it would be great if we had more volunteers too.
I'm going to keep it short.
Nobody is saying you can't volunteer. I totally agree. We all appreciate volunteers. We all appreciate participation. It's, I frankly,
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make an announcement. You just lost your town manager. I guarantee it. He's done. You just made him sick to his stomach, and he's gonna quit. He doesn't want to work for people that will not stand for this man. I'm sorry, that's the way it is.
I don't think that
And that's
question is the
based on
question
what?
on the table, where I was expanding the board. I think that conversation happens later, if I understand correctly, right?
Good job, ladies and gentlemen. You should be proud.
No need to be sarcastic.
I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being very straightforward. Quarter 2 finance report, town manager's not here, town manager update, town manager's not here. Future agenda items, road sign discussion, purchasing policy, personnel policy, salt shed. I don't want to take up any of those tonight, well, they're future anyway. Appointments, Board of Listers, Conservation, Development Review, Energy Coordinator, Veterans Memorial Committee. DeForest, I'll ask you now, are you still going to step down? Are you still going to resign?
Sure.
You,
But I'd like an opportunity to address the allegations made against the board before I do that.
okay.
I'm going to skip the whole discussion about 5 members and what happened between 2019 and 2023. Dr. Murray started his letter with official records indicate that the committee has had 7 to 8 appointed members since 2019, contradicting her statement that it had been limited to 5 members for the past decade. This discrepancy raises serious concerns about integrity, transparency, and accountability. Please see the attached page from 2022-23 town report, which lists 7 members and states there is always room at the table for more members, which I own. I did say that. I mean it. I meant it then. I mean it now. I will not address the fluctuating number of people that were assigned to the board. However, Dr. Murray's letter went on to say, furthermore, a review of VMC meeting minutes reveals potential open meeting law violations with Ms. Burse as chair and secretary. I have no idea what Dr. Murray is referring to in this allegation. All of our meetings are properly warned. If we discover, which we have on occasion, that there's been a mess up and it wasn't properly warned, that meeting doesn't exist and we do it all over at the next meeting. Perhaps Dr. Murray does not realize that I am the chair and my daughter is the secretary. There's a difference between Ms. Burse and Mrs. Burse in the minutes. Again, he went on, irregularities and fiscal accountability. Again, I have no idea what this refers to. As you recall from the minutes of the 2019 meeting, quote, the committee has fundraising funds in the general fund and a reserve account set up for the purpose of creating a veterans memorial, end quote. The town treasurer moved the fundraising funds into the reserve account to prevent them from being absorbed into the fund balance at the end of that fiscal year. The funds have resided there ever since. On March 7, 2023, Article 5 on the town meeting warning asked the voters to expand the purpose of that reserve account to include expenses relating to the maintenance and repair of the Veterans Memorial Park and to fund events held to honor veterans. The article passed by unanimous vote. The committee cannot expend any of those funds without approval of the town treasurer. All such requests must be accompanied by a motion approved by a quorum of the VMC members at a properly warned meeting of the committee. The request must also fit the purpose of the reserve in the opinion of the treasurer. So if we're misappropriating funds, then you must be accusing the town treasurer of being in cahoots with us. Again, decision-making with unappointed members. I respond, only appointed members of the VMC vote on motions made by the committee. Dr. Murray stated, and unauthorized changes to committee membership without select board governance warrant further scrutiny. Again, I refer you to the actions of the select board and personnel at the town office in the creation of the board's agendas and the committee rosters in the town report. These are not the actions of the VMC, and the records uphold that. Dr. Murray further stated there is also a lack of accounting regarding the VMC's use of town funds, which may necessitate a formal audit. I refer you to my previous dissertation of use of VMC funds. I must also add that the funds in the reserve account are funds raised by the VMC and donations and not tax dollars. In conclusion, no one is attempting to block anyone from being appointed to the VMC, but certainly you could all appreciate the foolishness of appointing someone to a seat that doesn't exist. Simple vote of the board could expand the committee to any number it chooses and thereby accommodate anyone wishing to serve. So I think these are serious allegations against the committee, and I deeply resent them.
Dr. Murray, would you like to respond?
Yeah, it is serious. Public funds of a town are serious. The minutes of the Veterans Memorial Committee don't match the select board minutes, don't match, in terms of membership. But I will say this, I'm reminded to assume the best. And I've heard what DeForest has said. My response to an email sent from the town manager to 5 people outlined my concerns about conflicts of interest and also because I was denied and I felt like I was misled about the membership of the Veterans Memorial Committee. And yeah, I am a combat veteran. I served in 3 wars. It hurt when I stood here and instead of being supported to join the Veterans Memorial Committee, it felt like I was being blocked. And you didn't advocate for me, you didn't fight for me. You didn't fight for me to become a member. And I was willing to die for everyone in this room, over and over. Do you know what it's like to have to go to a funeral of a soldier that you trained? To have to hand the flags to mothers, wives? What you did here is wrong. You should have expanded the committee. I'm just volunteering. I dedicated my life to this country, and I'm dedicating my life to this community. I love Weathersfield. And I would like to serve on the committee. So DeForest, yeah, I'll accept your resignation, and I would like to serve on the committee. But I would hope that the committee would expand and we could serve together and sort it out. But you should never feel offended when you're managing public funds and appointments that a select board makes, and there are questions raised about accounting. Money is flying around, cash is flying around. You're paying for things that should be scrutinized. It's a select board's responsibility to manage the funds of the town and ensure we're doing things on the up and up. I spent 33 years in the military, and I never got a single complaint against me for ethics. And we all should hold ourselves to a high standard like that. There are people, my farm produces food for the community. We donate most of what we produce. There are veterans in line at the food bank. And that's where my heart and my concerns are, is I'm worried about them. And I want to serve. And I want to make sure we're living up to the charter. So, yeah, I think, yeah, there's nothing wrong with an audit. And there's nothing wrong with making sure we're following open meeting laws. Those are fair questions. And if you don't think it's fair, then you shouldn't be in town government. The voters are counting on us to be good stewards of the town. So thank you, Chair, for your time.
Thank you. Are you ready to resign now?
Yes.
Would you do it at the podium?
I will not. I will submit a letter to the town manager.
We've been told there's going to be a resignation, but we have to receive that, I believe, in writing. Is that correct? Yes or no?
That is correct.
Well, in that case, if it will expedite Mr. Murray being appointed to the board in my place, then you do have my official resignation. And again, I assert, these are not questions, these are allegations that are unfounded and irresponsible. You gave no scrap of evidence to uphold any of it, and that's what I resent. You took the good names of people that have volunteered to do nothing more than to honor veterans and make it dirty. And I resent that when they're unfounded. There's no evidence to support his allegations. I have no problem being questioned. If I've done something wrong, you call me on it and I'll own it. But we haven't. They're unfounded and they're irresponsible, and I resent that. not just me, but you have there are 4 other people and many other people that have served on this committee. We have no access to money without the town treasurer's say-so. I don't understand any of the allegations. Without proof, they're unfounded and just irresponsible. So yes, you have my resignation, so you can appoint Dr. Murray to my seat. Thank you.
We are under appointments. We have one appointment, Veterans Memorial Committee, Dr. Murray. Do I hear a motion to appoint Dr. Murray to the Veterans Committee?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? I'll second the motion. Any discussion on the motion?
Only that I haven't wrapped my head around, right, what was just presented, because, I mean, and I apologize, I missed this in the packet that you sent.
I don't think we got that in our packet, because I don't remember seeing it
Right,
till
so
I got here.
there's a lot to wrap your head around,
Yeah.
right? Like, and clearly there's people who've dedicated a lot of time, and people are upset. And I haven't quite wrapped my head around exactly what the allegation was, or the question, that in a, what doesn't feel good to me is, right, on a committee, we're coming in with a lot of conflict. And that's surprising to me. And maybe I missed something. So I don't know if that's a question or a statement, but that's worrying me, right?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a short letter to explain my background and application for this vote. And I brought a copy for each member of this board. And I still would advocate that perhaps in the next month or so, I would advocate for expanding the membership to accommodate 7. This is a letter of input application for appointment to the Veterans Memorial Committee. I do want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you and be considered for appointment. I am a proud veteran, dedicated to community service and honoring our town's veterans. My military experience, it was extensive, 33 years of service to this country, bulk of it on active duty. I joined the Army Reserves as a 17-year-old Vermonter, and then I went on active duty after graduating Norwich University in Northfield. I spent 3 years as a tactical law enforcement officer in the U.S. Coast Guard. Then I served in the U.S. Army and retired as a colonel and returned home to Vermont. I have served honorably in 3 wars, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan. In the Gulf War, I completed 144 missions enforcing UN sanctions. In Iraq, I served as one of 4 directors in Baghdad's Green Zone, also known as the IZ. In Afghanistan, I served as the Kabul Base Cluster Inspector General. The Kabul Base Cluster was 8 FOBs. I was primarily outside the wire. My military decorations include the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, 2 Defense Meritorious Service Medals, 7 Meritorious Service Medals, 8 Commendation Medals, with 1 for heroism, 5 Achievement Medals, and 30 other awards and decorations. In January, I was recognized by the state of Vermont with Vermont's Veterans Medal and the Vermont Distinguished Service Medal. I have extensive experience with customs and courtesies, including burial honors and ceremonies. I have served as an honor guard commander to over 60 funerals and believe this experience can greatly benefit our town and the committee to ensure that we have proper etiquette and protocol observed at all events. And we do have another Memorial Day event coming up. It's my hope that the Select Board approves my appointment to this important town committee in order to support and honor fellow hometown veterans. I believe the spirit of this committee has nothing to do with an arbitrary number of members. It's about supporting and recognizing military veterans and members, and the ceremonial expertise and experience should be welcomed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
I guess my question would be, like, you're right, your letter is compelling. I'll be honest, without seeing this line, which I'm just catching up on, I apologize, about question the integrity, transparency, and accountability of our current or past current chair, I wouldn't question, right, like, your service, right? That, like, I wouldn't question it. My worry is, and I'll be honest, is coming in with such conflict, how do we, into a committee that's been functioning, is how do we bring that together and make it a functioning committee again, right? Because I think DeForest resigning is a big loss to any organization, and that makes me, the way this went about doesn't feel good to me, right? It doesn't. That's my worry, right? It's, doesn't feel good.
Mike, that could have all been resolved if the committee was expanded.
Yep.
None of that would have just happened.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I've never seen anybody be put on trial for becoming a volunteer. It's shameful.
Andrea Murray has her hand up online.
Andrea?
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to add a comment that was not mentioned, was that in Memorial Day of '24, my husband had asked to take part in the Memorial Day event and was denied, and it's in the Veterans Memorial Committee minutes. He was denied because they decided to limit participation to the members of the committee only. And it was so poorly taken that they then decided to add him as a speaker for Veterans Day. Veterans Day and Memorial Day are two very different ceremonial and recognition events for service members and veterans. One is not Memorial Day, we remember the ones we lost. Veterans Day is for all of our veterans. And when I see these events and I see the lack of protocol, the lack of ceremony, and the lack of military decorum that veterans deserve, it's disappointing. So, my husband taking part, yes, it's a sacrifice, and it's one that he takes with great honor and pride. And Ms. DeVeers did not need to step down. But I can tell you that, yes, there are open meeting law questions, and there are also financial issues that can be dealt with, but that need to be assessed for transparency. This is not the forum for that, but there are donations being given to the committee that are not being addressed in the minutes. There was no budget being reported in their minutes for this year. There are communications without actions that are done without board approval or discussion. From what I understand, the treasurer is not supposed to approve funds. Any donations that goes to a town committee belongs to the town, not to that committee. And it's very important that those issues are addressed and to make sure that the funds go to exactly where they belong, to represent our veterans. That the Veterans Committee is also supposed to support educating children on veterans. That's not being done. And that's something that's really important, and it speaks to our family, because I'm a child of a veteran. I grew up as an Army brat, and just sharing with kids here, because we don't have military close by, sharing with them and giving them information about what the military is and why we thank someone for their service, yeah, it's really important. And it's something that should be on the forefront of those issues. But the bottom line is, he didn't mention it, but August Murray wanted to be a member so that he wasn't blocked from taking part in these events. And that should never happen anyway. If a veteran asks to be a part of a memorial event, that should always be. a solid yes in some form or other. So that's why we're here today. Thank you.
I gotta ask for rebuttal.
The lady behind,
Yep. Allison, go ahead.
Alice.
I'm on the committee, and I never heard that Dr. Murray was refused a part on this at all. And as for education, I don't know anybody who has worked harder than DeForest to promote this committee, to do as much as she could to educate and honor veterans. And I am absolutely offended at these allegations. They are not true, and I am ready to tender my resignation as well, because I don't think so. Thank you, Colonel Murray, for your service to our country, but I don't think I can work with you after this. So I'm gonna sleep on it overnight, and actually, you'll probably get my resignation in the morning.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add that I don't believe I named any names. I spoke about the committee in general.
Two things. I think when Andrea spoke of the treasurer, she would seem to be assuming that the treasurer was a member of the Veterans Committee. But in fact, it's our town treasurer.
Yes.
The town treasurer, so any disbursements that the Veterans Committee requested had to go through the town treasurer. What worries me, I do agree with Mr. McNaughton, is that we don't seem to be talking about, somehow you've switched the issue. No one has, let me grab my once again. The letter that you wrote, and the email that you sent, I only read it briefly, so I cannot quote it. But you were making allegations against the members of the committee, against our town treasurer, against, I don't know what you were referring when you spoke of flag etiquette and protocol. It's always been an informal gathering of members of the community. It hasn't been a military event, but it has honored the service of people directly or indirectly, people who are veterans, people who are married, or the children of veterans. So I think, Mr. Chair, that you have to deal with these allegations. To what exactly are you referring? We've never in the past had to worry too much about having very exact minutes, but I've known DeForest since we were both charter members of the Conservation Commission in the 1980s, and she's the most organized and detail-oriented person that I know. So if you have cause, I would like to know in specific detail what those allegations are and on what they are based. Because I certainly agree with you. It's not a good idea. It certainly doesn't promote the feeling of community and willingness to work together to start your application by making allegations of misconduct. And I've been looking at Grove University's motto and how the citizen soldier and the citizen student are supposed to be. And I don't think we have contrasts to the alma mater.
Dr. Murray.
Yeah, that's an unfair statement. There are really three things. I was contacted by the town manager following 2 weeks ago, the last select board meeting. The town manager was responding to a request from the select board relating to the Veterans Memorial Committee. I felt, and I explained it earlier, that I was misled about the membership numbers, and I addressed those concerns. And I will say right now, there is conflict between the listing of members in the VMC minutes and the select board minutes. There's conflict there, and the town report. I addressed that as a concern, and when I was going through and looking at these meetings, it became aware that there are other issues. There are issues with fiscal reporting, and there are issues with open meetings. I responded to the email I got. I raised those concerns, and those are serious concerns. The response that I received was the town manager, and I didn't make this public. I only replied to those who were on that email, and the town manager said, well, he's going to consult with the town's legal advice to get an assessment, and I've been waiting. and I haven't taken further action. I left it there. And so those were the big concerns. But don't question my integrity, because those concerns were referred. I am a former inspector general. I've investigated fraud, waste, abuse. I raised my concerns. It got referred to another party. And as far as I was concerned, it would be assessed.
I think the onus is with the select board. The mistakes that have been made perhaps have been with the select board and the management of the.
Are you going to finish? Patty?
I'm hoping he's going to help me out. But I mean, the questions that you're asking seem to have to do with reporting on the select board side. Then is that correct?
Reporting on what?
That's what we're all asking.
Here's the thing that.
Let me,
Yeah, I'm
actually,
sorry.
let me restate it, maybe that will help us out. Has the select board been unhappy with the minutes submitted by the Veterans Committee, with fiscal reports submitted by the Veterans Committee, or with any requests for disbursement of funds made by the, because all of that had to go through our town treasurer and through you. Have you been unhappy?
I'm not sure that question makes sense.
I think it does.
I don't think it does, Patty, and here's why. The committee is a subcommittee and keeps their own minutes. I don't generally review those minutes. I don't think any of us really
Never
do.
seen- never seen
Patty,
any.
please don't interrupt. And I think I said earlier that this problem started here at the select board with our agenda stating that there were 2 vacancies.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
agreeing with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe.
Where I'm trying to get to is, I was aware of Dr. Murray's request to the town manager, because the town manager communicates that stuff with me. As Mr. Murray said, or Dr. Murray said, Colonel Murray, I don't get involved or involve the board in that stuff. First of all, I haven't heard back from the attorney either. You know,
He made his, Brandon said it at the beginning,
I-
what the attorney said.
So I did talk to town council, and that's what I had said earlier. We determined that the select board can expand the committee by a vote of the board. And then
That's-
town
that-
council said, we do not want to turn anyone away from volunteering in Weathersfield. Town council recommends that the select board expands the Veterans Memorial Committee. That's what I said like 15 minutes ago,
yeah, that part,
Oh, it's been longer than 15 minutes.
20 minutes.
But that's,
I do also want to say, Mike, the reason there were 7 vacancies on the agenda, and I believe this is correct if I remember right, when we were creating the list of vacancies for all of the committees in town, we looked back at the annual reports to see who was appointed to the committee. In the annual report, it has an appointed official checklist of everyone that's there. So when we looked at it, in FY15 and FY16, there were, according to the annual report and according to the appointed official checklist, we had Gloria Valentine, DeForest Bears, Henry Cobb, Bob Dickinson, Aaron Fitzbert, Fred Mellish, Cookie Shan, Ernie Shan, Jeff Slade, Lisa Slade, and Edith Stilson. So that's 11 members. Then, in FY20 and FY21, it listed 8 members. And then it listed 7 members between FY21 and FY22. Now, DeForest did clear that up when she stated that she listed everyone in her annual report, so it was
So they got
inclusive
credit.
of
Yeah.
everyone. But from our perspective, it was on the appointed official checklist that the town clerk created for the annual report. That's what created the issue. It wasn't the select board, it wasn't town management, it wasn't the Veterans Memorial Committee. It was the checklist that was established and entered into the annual report.
John?
First, I think it's really unfortunate that something as simple as membership is digressed into a gutter discussion. mistakes were made, we need to correct them. It was unfortunate, and now it's digressed into, almost into a name-calling scenario. And it doesn't reflect well on us as a community, you as a board, Dr. Murray, or anybody else. Let's put the membership thing discussion out of it, correct it. It's still at 5. You can have 5 members. In another meeting, you can put in 7. You can put in 12 or 13 if you want. As far as excluding people, I still, as my wife said, that you have a governing board, and then anybody else is welcome to come. Not unlike the planning commission, not a lot of public shows up to these meetings, even though they're properly warned. And I might add that Dr. Murray hasn't attended a Veterans Committee meeting. And I need to take just a second to contradict what Andrew Murray said about Veterans Day. We already had a speaker for Veterans Day, and that was Weathersfield resident Gerald Malloy. He was already lined up. Dr. Murray came in, DeForest said, "We're glad to have you speak at the next event," which turned out to be Veterans Day. So there was no, he wasn't turned away. We already had somebody lined up. We're going, wow, we got, you're not going to push somebody aside because somebody else wants to come in. You make room for them at the next event.
We have a motion on the floor, correct?
I forget what it was.
To appoint Dr.
Oh.
Murray to the vacant seat on the Veterans Memorial. Is the board ready to take action? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the appointment of Dr. August Murray to the Veterans Memorial Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Any abstentions? And any opposed? Sorry, put that out of order. Anyway, it is 4-0. Dr. Murray, you are appointed to the Veterans Memorial Committee. John, I tend to agree with you on one aspect. I think I'm going to come at this from a little bit different perspective than what you did, though. There's a division that exists. It exists in our town, in our state, and in our country. And it's really a shame that it seems to be that we're defined by some sort of, perhaps, political affiliation. Maybe, maybe not. But it seems pretty apparent that overall we are. I see a lot of it. I don't like it. I'm an American. I'm an American citizen. I'm a Weathersfield resident. I'm a Vermont state resident. But before any party, I'm just a citizen. And DeForest, I think, had a conversation with the town manager earlier in which she commended me for not choosing sides and just looking at the policy at the last meeting and saying, you know, we have to follow the rules. We have to follow the policy, whatever that is. But we need to set aside these divisions and work together. We are all Weathersfield residents, and we are all on the same team. We're all here for the same thing. We need to look out for one another, not what party we belong to or affiliated with. Mike?
I'm sorry. Have to do with political parties. I don't understand.
I just think the division comes from that.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I do.
either.
Oh, I do. I do. I don't know if it's this issue here, but I.
For yourself, Mike, it doesn't come like that from me.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't. I don't think it's. I see that. I see it in the people around us. I don't want to be that. That's what I'm. That's what I'm trying to say is I'd like to just see us be one for each other and you know, anyway. Okay.
It's 8 o'clock. Could we continue with our business of the evening?
You're gonna make a good chair. Approve the warrants?
So moved.
Mike, do you want to go
General
back to the
fund,
finance report?
payroll, $21,334.95. Operating
We need to?
expenses, $54,350.63. Highway payroll, $13,413.18. Operating expenses, $25,104.06. Solid waste, payroll, $2,085.64. Operating expenses, $2,471.35. Library, payroll, $2,399.74. Grants, we got a grant, $563.57. ARPA money spent, $2,444. Payroll taxes through e-checks, $36,985.14, for a total of $39,992.71. Grand totals, payroll, $39,233.51. Total operating expenses, $121,918.75.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Warrants are approved. Brendan has asked me to go back to the item 7, the Q2 finance report projection.
We can put it on the next agenda, Mike, if you guys don't want to do it tonight.
Won't take you long to read it, will it?
No.
I just got one question about it, so you read right through.
Okay. Of my question of on the finance report?
Yep.
Okay.
You want me to ask you a question before you tell us what it is?
Good.
I want to know why the fire department is at 27%. Is that over budget or under budget?
That's under budget.
Oh, okay. That's all I needed to know.
So, as of December 31st, general fund revenues stand at 54% of the budget, totaling $952,000. The town clerk's office is still under budget in several areas. That includes computerization, vault fees, motor vehicle registrations, and land records. Vehicle registrations are being handled online now, so we're not seeing people come into the office as frequently to register their cars and so forth. Additionally, land use permits are below budget, though these are typically increasing in the springtime when building commences. On the other hand, some revenue streams, such as current use and interest earnings, are exceeding expectations. So our interest on our bank balances are a lot higher than they have been in the past because interest rates are higher. General fund expenses are at 44% of budget. The Lister's office is notably under budget at 15%, while the Ascutney Fire Department is at 27% of budget, which is very, very low for this time of the year.
Knock on wood.
Any questions?
Sounds pretty good.
Anything else you want to go over tonight, Brendan?
You guys have the report. Unless you want me to go through the entire one.
Update on can you go over the solid waste one, though?
Yes.
I'd like to hear on that one.
So as of December 31st, revenues at the transfer station are at 62%. This is actually a lot better than where we have been at this time of the year in the past. And this is, some of this is due to receiving all of our fixed revenues in Q1 and Q2, although the town of Reading still hasn't sent us their allocation. So we typically see that in March, April. Variable revenues are currently 2% under budget, but it's trending higher than it usually is at this time of the year. And that's because obviously the select board increased the permit sticker, the punch ticket.
So what do we think that amount's gonna bring us up
So projections are showing,
for the $7.50 increase?
so, expenses are currently at 53% of the budget, resulting in a net positive 32,000. So that's much better than where we usually are on December 31st of any year. Projections for year end indicate that revenues will reach 103% of the budget at year end. On the expense side, we're looking at ending the year at 99%. The reason for this is because the select board paid off the trash compactor. So we didn't have that $10,000 payment on the expense side this year. And we're projecting a net positive $16,598 at year end. The trash compactor being about 11,000 of that between principal and interest.
So is that 16,000 included with that $7.50 increase that we charging for the stickers?
So that doesn't go into effect until July 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Still, he just
Sorry.
gave good news, right? It's the
Yeah.
first time he's ever done that.
I know.
When it related to his cost center. Right?
We're at a positive and not a negative, yeah.
And then in the highway fund, we do have some line items that are standing out here, and that's repairs and maintenance. Ray and I spoke about that today, and we've leveled it out through year end. In the general fund, I'm showing that we're projecting a negative net revenue expense at year end of $8,300. So finance and I are getting together in the morning, and we're going to make some cuts throughout the departments so that we can land at zero in the general fund at year end.
Negative net revenue funds. I mean, we're bringing in less money.
It means we're going to end the year in a deficit of 8324 if we don't do something differently, which isn't a terrible margin on the budget, but at the same time, we'd like to end the year closer to zero. So we're going to go through the various departments and make some adjustments. Typically, that happens around this time of the year. We'll go through, we'll freeze certain line items, we'll limit certain line items, or we'll stop any further spending in the line items. So that's where we'll be at in the morning. The highway fund going over budget because of legal fees due to Old Bore Road. So we really can't do anything about that at this point, although insurance is covering the
We
majority.
can't claim those yet? That wasn't, before it was claimable, is that what that is?
Yes,
Yeah.
but they're still not covering 100%.
Oh,
So there's $25 an hour that they're not
oh,
covering.
really?
Yep. So they're covering, I think, 175 an hour, and we have to pay the other $25. That's it for the finance report.
Any other questions?
Motion to adjourn?
Well, I got a quick,
Oh, he's
couple
got-
of quick things for my town manager update, if the board doesn't mind.
Go for it.
Okay. The town office, just three quick things. The town office will be closed on Monday, February 17th, and to observe President's Day. So we'll reopen on Tuesday. We ask staff to use this day to reflect on the leadership contributions of our U.S. presidents and enjoy the long weekend. We're working on our presentation at town meeting for obviously the budgets, but also the fire departments. If anybody has any questions in advance or wants to participate, let me know. This year for the town meeting, does the board want to present any of the articles? I know Paul Tillman did the solid waste fund in the past. I'm not sure, Rika, if you're interested. Paul Tillman was our select board representative to solid waste, and then he would present the budget at town meeting.
Can I get together with you and
Of course.
chat about that before I make a decision?
On the other hand, he just gave good news about it, so maybe you're
Yeah.
just gonna be
Yeah.
presenting
Maybe it'd be a
success.
good one.
It'll be a lot better for you than it was.
To make volunteers.
Yes.
So,
People love it.
yeah, we can get together and, I mean, we can draft the PowerPoint presentation and the slides for it and go through that. I do have some really exciting economic development news to share. I know some people may have heard already, but if you haven't, I'll officially release it on March 6th. That's it.
17th, Planning Commission?
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
Yeah, we're moving that on to the next one.
Good.
So you just opened up a box and just closed
I
it?
feel like that's what he just.
Look
I'm
at
like-
that, you can't
It's like-
do
And you
that.
allude that everybody else already knows about it.
One of those Chinese boxes, you know, your fingers get stuck in it, you can't do anything.
You have to tell us now.
Well, I can't. I just know that some folks know, and I didn't say anything.
Well, that's not very fair.
All right.
Seems par for the course tonight.
I can go ahead and release it. So, 14 Escutney Place at 5087 Route 5, right next to Strobel's. Natalia and I, so over the past several years, we've noticed that the front space has been vacant. It hasn't been fully, there's been 2 vacancies basically at 5087.
You mean where the gas station was?
Correct.
Okay.
So we had approached the owner about renting a space over there for a thrift store. And he asked me if we would be interested in purchasing the building instead. So Natalia and I decided to do that. And we'll be we're gonna do a request for business plan for the front space. And I don't know if the board's interested in having discussions about what
What to put there and make
the
money?
town would like there, because now we'll be determining that.
Yeah.
So are we talking Strobel's?
No, right
It's
across, on the corner, right where the daycare center is, right? Daycare
Yes.
center's
Oh,
out
On
behind.
the other side of the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, currently there's a daycare. They've been there for a very
And a
long
hair
time.
salon out behind it.
There's Evolution Salon, and then there's also Country Fuels Dispatch Center.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 vacancies. The front was a pizza shop in the past as well, and all the pizza equipment's still in there. So we could end up, like I said, we're gonna do a request. This is separate from my role with the town, of course.
Because you need another job.
But we're going to do a request for business plans, and we're going to see who responds to it and what we can get over there. And we're looking at putting a pretty good investment into that building to make it really nice for the town.
Good for you.
Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, before you go, can we enter any other business? I would like to address the board.
Go ahead.
Over the past couple of meetings, I've noticed a little bit of a trend going on with use of abstentions. I would like to just say, as a citizen, it'd be nice for the board members to actually say yes or no to something. I understand there is a place for abstentions. Absolutely, I get it. I'm on a board, I know when it comes in. But when we have certain things coming up, voicing your actual vote would really matter. At least, you know, to me it does, as a citizen. I'd like to know where all my people that have been elected to represent us actually stand on something. And when you have a majority of a board either say no or abstain and things don't happen, it'd just be nice to have it addressed. That's all.
Can I make a comment?
It wasn't directed at anybody.
I don't abstain very often, and I know I did tonight. This letter was just dropped in front of my lap here tonight. That is the only reason why I abstained.
Okay.
Okay? I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, and when I started to read it, I didn't like what I was reading. That's the only reason why I abstained.
Okay.
Usually I'm pretty verbal as to what I want and
Oh,
what I say.
absolutely. I can attest to that. I've been watching and been part of this for a while. No questions on that. Again, this isn't like directed at one specific
Yeah,
thing
but I
here.
just
It's
wanted you to know where I stood tonight.
I do appreciate the clarity on that. It just seems that it's becoming more prevalent.
It's
As
happened
of late.
twice.
It's a lot more than has come through in the
And
past.
the last occasion was me, and it was because likewise, I had not read the information and did not feel I was in a position to vote yea or nay, because I didn't understand it. I didn't have enough information.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And again, I'm just voicing my opinion as a citizen, not as the chair of the planning commission or anything like that. Just something I've noticed in watching the meetings and being part of the town for the past years. So thank you very much, and I do appreciate everything all of you do up there. It is not an easy job, I definitely understand that, just being on some of the, smaller boards for sure. Thank you.
Can I speak for a moment? Well, just waiting for your nod. I want to say that I'm really dismayed with tonight's meeting on many fronts. And I'm You know, one of the things that I have been, I'm not sure proud is the right word, but have really admired about this board is exactly that we have avoided this sort of polarization that showed up tonight. And this really just breaks my heart. I perhaps naively dared to believe that we could leave that sort of stuff at the door and deal with the issues of the town here in front of us. And what I feel happened tonight is, or over, you know, over the last, I guess now it's a couple of weeks, really hurts. And frankly, sir, I was very dismayed when you made the distinction between being a member of the board or coming as a volunteer, participating as a volunteer on the board, and that if you were a volunteer, well, you might not show up because volunteers don't always show up. I thought, oh my God, this is the man who claims he cares so deeply about this. I'm sorry, I don't mean this as an offense. I'm telling you, that's how I felt when you said that. And I thought, I'm absolutely stunned, because everything I know about you is that you're totally dedicated to the military and to veterans, and you feel very strongly about doing things right, and you feel very strongly about veterans being honored, and I was just completely taken aback by that remark.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Briefly.
I think you misheard me, Rika. I didn't say that I wouldn't volunteer. I said when I serve on a committee, I'm fully invested. I attend every meeting. I take the obligation seriously, like the budget committee, made every meeting. And I am very active as a volunteer. I volunteer throughout the town on a lot of parks and recs. Donated the hamburger meat and cooked it for the kids at the fishing derby. So please don't mischaracterize your observation of what I said. If you go back and watch the tape, it's not what I said.
All right, I will go back and check.
I am.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood.
No, I'm hook, line,
I
and
will
sinker.
check.
I'm a disabled veteran too, and I'm in chronic pain. I'm pretty jammed up from my military career, and I devote my entire life to serving the community, raising foster kids, supporting food banks. So I am 100% lock, stock, and barrel committed to the community. And I will say this, I apologize. In hindsight, I would have been a lot more tactful, and I regret that. And you have my commitment to try to resolve and diffuse any of that polarization. You have my commitment. So my apologies for taking so much time of the board this evening.
I appreciate that.
Into adjourn.
And I have a bone to pick with you, which is that you said, oh, we just lost our town manager, and you have, you know, clearly packed up and are ready to go. And it's like, Mike, you never do that. You clearly seem to be really pissed about something tonight. And again, it's like, wait a minute, this is not how this board has ever functioned in the whole last year. I have never seen that before. And I'm really dismayed.
When was that comment made?
Mike made it when you walked away.
Oh,
We just lost our town manager.
He quit.
You wait and see. We just lost our town manager.
I did need a
Because
second because I strongly disagreed, which I usually don't do, but I did disagree tonight with the decision not to expand the committee based on the select board's decisions to expand things in the past. So yeah, I did disagree tonight, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you lost.
Must have been what he ate.
And I'm not
I hope that this
pissed.
is a one-off and that it doesn't happen again.
And I'm not pissed, I'm disgusted, equally as you are. And I think maybe we see it from the same, maybe it's a parallel. You're seeing it from one place and I'm seeing it from another. But I agree that I'm disgusted. And, yeah, I packed up. I'm ready to go. And, not sure I'm gonna stick around. I'm not sure I wanna be a part of it. And it is that division. It is party lines. It's what I was talking about, believe it or not. It exists. And I know for a fact that you, I don't wanna go any further. I'm gonna leave it right there. Motion to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.